What's up, guys? Welcome to Unsung Games. This is your host, Shadowcat. How you doing? Alright, today we'll be looking at Wolfenstein for the Xbox 360. Not a lot of publicity for this game, especially considering how big the previous one, Enemy Territories Return to Castle Wolfenstein, was. I kind of saw a quick little review for it on game trailers, but that was really about it. And I don't even think, if I recall right, it did well on game trailers either. So I picked the game up expecting it, to at least hold up to what its predecessor was, and I was a little bit disappointed, especially considering that it had a pretty good premise to it. The game picks up right where Return for Castle Wolfenstein leaves off. You're following B.J. Blazkowicz as he's sent on an assignment to this town called Eisenstadt, where he's got to liberate it from the Nazis, and while he's there, he finds out that one of his old enemies from Return is still alive, and it's up to him to stop all this craziness that's befallen this town. And while he's here, he's got to deal with regular Nazis, super Nazis, all kinds of crazy enemies. And some pros to this game that really helped to stand out to me was that it really does go back towards the old school kind of Wolfenstein game, where it keeps sort of like this dark and mysterious kind of feel to it, especially with this era of World War II, where the Nazis are supposedly messing with all kinds of crazy, paranormal weaponry and stuff like that. The weapons in this game have a great World War II feel to it, and even the ones that are of the Nazi creation even feel like they do belong in this game, such as the particle cannon and the flamethrower and the Tesla coil. You also have to collect gold in the game, which helps you buy upgrades and get refills for your guns and everything like that. And it kind of made me think a little bit of Wolfenstein 3D because of the gold collection and that, even though that was just for points, and this actually gives you a little bit of something for your troubles. The voice acting in this game was really good. I could understand pretty much everybody in the game. I never found myself lost because I couldn't understand the characters. The cutscenes worked very well, especially the opening cinematic. Very good. Definitely will help you draw yourself more into the game. But sometimes the in-game cutscenes didn't look as great, but they did look really good, especially considering how the game was set up. The atmosphere of every level feels just like it would in the old school games, especially the hospital level. It's got that creepy feel to it, especially since you're alone, and everyone you meet just automatically gets killed. And it really drives you, kind of like that paranoia feel, like, what's going to happen next, even though, you might have a feeling for it, but you're never fully sure. The controls are very easy to get accustomed to. They're just like any first-person shooter game. They're easy to pick up. They're easy to understand. They're very new user-friendly. Upgrading your weapons, they have numerous amounts of them for everybody. You can make any gun you want your favorite. You can tether it to your play style. Like you need a bigger clip, or you definitely require a scope on your gun. They have something for you. Something that I thought was a decently cool premise, at least when I first got introduced to it, was a little magic pendant that allowed you to manipulate certain aspects, such as time, give yourself extra damage, see hidden secrets, and give yourself a shield. It definitely helps in some aspects of the game, but sometimes you'll find yourself just kind of using one specific power, like I found myself using the time stop. Intel will give you more info on the level. You're kind of confused of why the hell you're running around like an old warehouse. Well, find a couple pieces of information in there, and it'll explain pretty well why you're in there. And it'll actually help you get a little bit more in tune with the story as thus far. Now for the cons. The cons for this game were, a little bit more than the pros. The game's difficulty isn't really consistent no matter what you play on. I found myself on the hardest difficulty, kind of forcing myself to die in some aspects, just because I, would just want to run forward, because hiding behind cover felt like I was playing on easy in some aspects, because the enemy AI just would not work with me. It would, in many cases, just either put everything it had into me and actually use some kind of strategy, or just break down to running full sprint at me, only to die behind a wall, a centimeter away from me that I'm looking at, or just run into my hail of gunfire while trying to get to a new piece of cover. Most of the weapons that you upgrade are completely useless because the MP40 and MP43 are completely unfair when they're fully upgraded. They pretty much never miss, and their damage is pretty much ridiculous, and there's ammo for them everywhere. Some guns you can't get ammo for unless you specifically go to the black market to get it. Speaking of which, in the game, you have the option when you're in the middle of Eisenstadt to pull out your map and take a look at it so you can find where your next mission is, where you're going, where you are, where your black market is, your hideouts for the two factions you work for. But when you get into a map, because some of them are linear, you don't really need it, but some maps do really require it. I ran around for about 20 minutes in one map because it said that my objective was right in front of me, but unfortunately it was down and through a door that I had to phase through, and it didn't show me getting farther away from it or anything like that. It was really confusing. So an in-mission map really would have been helpful. There are way too many resupply areas in the game. I've never found myself short of ammo, and if I ever did, I killed an enemy and took his gun. There was one mission where literally the second before I went into what I thought was a boss battle, I had a huge room full of pretty much every ammo in the game. It was uncalled for. Grenades in this game are completely useless because they either take forever to explode, they don't do enough damage, or just when you throw them, even if you arc them, like you would in Call of Duty, you literally will throw it about a foot in front of you and then either get blown up by your own grenade or the enemy will pick it back and throw it at you. And much like Call of Duty, it does have an indicator to throw back grenades, but it's so useless because you never see it. I found it by complete mistake as I backed up thinking a grenade was at my feet and was like, oh, do you want to throw this back? I mean, you figured you would make that a little more prominent. Let's see here. The Veil upgrades, which is your magic, completely useless. I bought one upgrade the entire game, and it was for my time magic, where the second I set it off, a pretty much EMP style blast radius went out and turned everything in the area that was an enemy into ash. And all I had to do was simply gun butt it or shoot it, and it would just crumble. Even some of the bigger enemies in the game, like the guys who give you the pulse cannons, they die like it's nothing. It's really, really uncalled for how easy it is once you get that upgrade. The game I beat in the hardest difficulty in under 12 hours, which I was a little disappointed on. I mean, that's a healthy game, but I figure on the hardest difficulty, I would not be finding myself sad that I beat it in 12 hours. I really don't know how long it took me to beat it because the game never really gave me a time. I sat through the whole credits, and it was just ridiculous. The credits themselves, even if it did give me a time, I really did not pay that much attention during the credits because the credits literally would, every time that there was a break and you're like, oh great, it's over, would just come up with a whole list of more people to thank. Most games would thank, just the people who worked on it, the families who supported it, and that was it. They pretty much thanked everybody, and I'm willing to bet they even thanked the people who catered the goddamn office while they were making the game. I didn't need that much. All I need was who made the game, what's the music, how much time it took, and that's it. I don't need that much. The game also, with your Veil, you had to recharge them at certain little intervals where there was a fountain in the ground, and those were everywhere in the city. They were everywhere, and even in levels. I'd find myself literally wasting Veil power just so I had a reason to use the reload, and the reloads never went away. There was no limit to them, which really did not need to be there, because that just made the game so much more easier. It's like, oh, I waste my Veil powers. I can just reload them anytime I want. The city of Eisenstadt itself, I was really disappointed in. I thought it'd be pretty cool to have this big, semi-expansive world for me to explore through. Every alleyway, every building, every street, all looked the same. It wasn't until maybe later in the game where the Nazis really start becoming more prominent in the story with what they're doing. Do you see any kind of change in scenery? It was, I don't even know how to explain it. I was really, really bored just running through the same 3 parts of town every 10 minutes, and that's all it broke down to. And It was the same enemies. There was no real variation in them. I would run through, and there's about 7 Nazis, all in the same spot, all in the same spawn places I'd killed them from before, and the game never really gave me any other reason to really care that I'm in this town of Eisenstadt. I didn't care. Going to the black market was kind of useless because, granted, I did need the gun upgrades, but that was about it. I never needed the reload for anything. I think I brought the Panzerschreck reload because I had nothing else to spend money on, and I just wanted to waste the time. Boss battles, getting to them was harder than the final boss itself because, for some stupid reason, it was just always that one big light that just kind of said, hey, do this. I mean, some bosses would literally stand there and give you good opportunities to kind of look around the room and see what you had to do, and with your availability that let you like see hidden secrets, it would highlight what you had to do almost, so it just kind of made the boss battle even easier, and you really felt no accomplishment when you got this done. I even felt empty. This was like, I've been trying for the past half hour or so to try and get through this level, and I finally get through it, and I'm like, okay, now I gotta go to the next one. Checkpoints, really abundant in this. Really, really abundant. They would be every other interval. They really would give you a lot, and sometimes it was a blessing and a curse, because many of the times, much like in other games, you'll die at a point where you're in a crossfire, but unlike most games, this one will kind of leave you in that crossfire and never give you another opportunity to get out of it. Another major problem I had with this game, at least with graphic-wise, especially with in-game graphics, which bothered me greatly, was that I would walk into a room and there's nothing going on in the room. It's a simple plain room, and the textures would take forever to load. It would be like I'd walk in the room, and it's not like there's a big epic battle going or anything, and it would act like it's running on a low grade system, and the textures would just take forever to load. It was really, really annoying, because it would take forever for me to figure out who I had to talk to, because I couldn't see their faces, or I couldn't see the text saying who they were. Reloading was a really major letdown in this game, because when you finished your clip, if the game went to reload it for you and you interrupted in any way, shape, or form, it would stop the reload and lead the gun unloaded altogether until you either shot or you hit the reload button manually. And this, in the heat of battle, is a big, big problem, because there were many battles where you will be in the heat of the moment, you run out of ammo, you go to duck behind cover or something, and you go to activate a veil power or something, and it stops the reload. And when it stops the reload, you are like, okay, great, I'm fully loaded and everything, because you watch the animation go through, but you rush back out, and you're like, why am I reloading again? It will drive you up a wall. It really will. After playing through the game, I really have to say that my final verdict has to be a 6 out of 10. It's definitely worth the pickup used to play through at least the one time, especially if you're a Wolfenstein fan, to at least complete the series. It's not a must-have for your library, but you're not really missing anything by passing this one up. It's a solid title. It can definitely stand on its own, but it's nothing special. It's nothing you haven't seen before. So, if you feel like it, take a look at the game, at least give it a chance. You may actually wind up enjoying it more than I did. You might actually find that the problems that I had with the game don't really bother you as much. So, for Unsung Gaming, this is Shadowcat.